The story of a 13-year-old investor. Have you ever wondered how young someone can be to start building wealth? What if I told you that a 13-year-old kid, yes, just 13, made decisions that many adults are too afraid to make? Decisions that changed the course of his life forever. This is not just a story about money. It's a story about courage, vision, and the belief that age does not define your future. It all began on a quiet evening. A boy named Daniel sat at the dinner table, watching his parents argue about bills. Electricity, rent, school fees, everything seemed heavier than usual. And in that silence, Daniel asked a question that would spark a journey: why do we always run out of money before the month ends? His parents froze. They gave the usual answers: life is expensive, or we don't earn enough. But Daniel's young mind didn't accept those answers. He thought to himself, if money is the problem, then maybe learning how money works is the solution. That night, while others slept, Daniel opened his old laptop and typed one word into the search bar: investing. At first, he didn't understand much. Charts, graphs, terms like dividends and compound interest made little sense. But one phrase stood out and refused to leave his mind: money can work for you, even while you sleep. Daniel couldn't stop thinking about it. How could money work? How could something so small, like a few saved coins, grow into something powerful? So he began small. Every time he got his weekly allowance, instead of buying video games or snacks, he saved half. The other half he used for learning, buying books on finance, watching tutorials, and following stories of great investors. And slowly, Daniel realized a secret that most people ignore: it's not about how much you earn, but about how much you keep and where you place it. One Saturday morning, Daniel nervously walked into the local library where a workshop on saving and investing for beginners was being held. The room was filled with adults twice, even 3 times his age. When the speaker asked if there were any questions, Daniel raised his small hand. "Can kids invest too?" he asked. The entire room turned to look at him. Some smiled, some laughed softly, but the speaker paused and said, "Yes, as long as you start learning now, you are already investing in yourself." Those words hit Daniel like lightning. Investing is not just about stocks or money, it's about knowledge, discipline, and time. That day, Daniel made a promise to himself: he would become an investor, not someday in the future, but starting right now, at 13. Weeks passed, and Daniel finally had saved $50 from allowances, birthday money, and doing small chores for neighbors. To most people, $50 wasn't much. But for Daniel, it was everything. He opened a small online account, with his parents' permission, and decided to buy his first stock. He didn't pick randomly. For days, he researched companies he believed in. He looked at things he used every day: a sports shoe brand, a streaming service, and even the company that made his favorite cereal. Finally, with his hands shaking, he clicked buy. At that moment, Daniel wasn't just a kid anymore, he was an investor. But life quickly taught him that investing is not always about winning. A few weeks later, the stock price dropped. Daniel watched in fear as his $50 became $43. He felt sick. He thought, "I've lost everything. I was stupid to believe I could do this." That night, he almost sold everything. But then he remembered a line he had read in a book: the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. Those words gave him strength. He realized the greatest enemy of an investor is not the market, it's fear. So Daniel held on. He studied more. He learned that prices go up and down, but value takes time to grow. And while his friends played video games, Daniel was reading about compound growth, Warren Buffett, and the history of markets. Months passed. The stock Daniel had bought began to rise. First, it reached $50 again. Then $60. Then $70. Daniel couldn't believe his eyes. His patience had been rewarded. He had discovered a principle that would shape his future: money grows when you stay disciplined, not when you panic. By the end of the year, Daniel had saved and invested over $300. It wasn't millions, but the true wealth he gained wasn't in his wallet, it was in his mindset. One day, at school, Daniel overheard his classmates talking about the latest sneakers they wanted to buy. They laughed at Daniel because he didn't spend money like them. But Daniel smiled and said softly, "While you're buying shoes that will wear out in a year, I'm buying pieces of companies that will last forever." At first, they didn't understand. But later, when some of them saw Daniel's little portfolio grow, they began asking questions. And Daniel, only 13 years old, became the one teaching others about money. One evening, Daniel's parents sat at the kitchen table once again, surrounded by bills. But this time, something was different. Daniel walked in, holding a small notebook. "Mom, Dad," he said, his voice calm but firm, "I've been learning about saving and investing. I think I can help." At first, they smiled politely. What could a 13-year-old possibly know about money? But Daniel opened his notebook, showing how much he had saved, where he had invested, and how much it had grown. His parents' eyes widened. They realized their son had done something extraordinary. He had learned a skill that many adults never master. In that moment, Daniel didn't just feel like a child anymore. He felt like a leader. He told them, if we start saving a little every month, and we stay patient, we can change our future. We don't have to live paycheck to paycheck forever. For the first time in a long time, his parents felt hope. Daniel's journey wasn't about becoming rich overnight. It was about proving something much greater: age is not a limit. Mindset is. He discovered that investing is not just about money. It's about discipline, vision, and courage. It's about planting seeds today that grow into forests tomorrow. And here's the most powerful truth Daniel learned: the earlier you start, the greater your advantage. Because time is the greatest investor of all. Now, let me ask you, what's stopping you from starting your journey? Do you think you're too young? Too old? Don't have enough money? Remember this: Daniel started with just $50. What he lacked in money, he replaced with curiosity and courage. And those two things became his greatest assets. So if a 13-year-old could take the first step, why not you? The story of Daniel reminds us that it's not about how much you have, it's about how much you believe, how much you learn, and how much you're willing to grow. If this story inspired you, don't let it end here. Take a step today, no matter how small, and plant the seeds for your future. And before you go, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs this message. Because somewhere out there, another young Daniel is waiting to be inspired. This is not just a story about a 13-year-old investor. This is a story about what's possible for all of us.